What's up, gamers? Today we're talking about Ash. Spirit Ash, aka the ghost bros you summon to make all your boss fights easier in Elden Ring. First off, we're going to automatically disqualify like 80% of these nerds, because I never used them. Ain't nobody got time for a 20-minute tier list anyways. Let's start off with something simple. The Lone Wolf. Viz. So I think for a lot of people, these are the first summon they used. They're fast, they're cheap, and they can bully early game bosses. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Imagine if a guy called himself a lone wolf and then he just rolls up with a street fight with his two identical twin brothers. Their existence is an oxymoron. Lone wolf my ass. There's 3 of these dudes. At the end of the day, they're still good doggos, so I'll give them C tier. Next up is the Ancestral Follower. Remember those guys from the Siofra River well who sniped you with their laser arrows from 100 feet away? Well, now you can make one of them your ally, and inflict that same pain on your enemies. He can also whip out his axe and start throwing hands if the enemies get too close. He does have some downsides though, mainly that he's big and slow. If the enemy wants to hit him, they probably will. We'll put him in B tier. Next, we have Lhutel.
So no head?
Real talk though, Lhutel is kinda awesome. She's the embodiment of Nothing Personnel Kid, as she spams her teleports behind you move like no tomorrow. The only problem is that she sometimes seems to be having a bit too much fun teleporting around, but she kinda forgets to actually attack things. I'm gonna go ahead and put her in A tier. Stormhawk Deenh. A wise man once said, "A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush." Unless the bushbirds have freaking knives for feet, then they're definitely worth more. Sorry, Deenh, you and your knifeless feet belong in D tier. Now the Warhawk, that's more of what I'm talking about. Now that is a knife. You get to go in B tier. The Banished Knights. Like our friend the Ancestral Follower, these two might bring up some painful memories. But hey, if you can't beat them, getting them to join you is the next best option. Oleg is probably the better of the two by a small margin, but if they had to fight each other, Engvall would probably win because of weapon triangle advantage. Let's put Oleg in A tier and Engvall in B tier. Spooky Scary Skeletons. If you didn't know, these summons actually work the same as the skeletons you fight, meaning that they'll come back to life after dying as long as nothing curb stomps their broken corpse. They're both cool, but if I have to pick between 1 Sans Undertale or 2 Sans Undertale, I think the choice is obvious. Put them in B and C. Black Knife Tiche. Or Tiche. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Tiche is kind of bonkers, and rightfully so given that she costs a whopping 132 FP to summon, which is the highest in the game. Hell, the only reason I leveled my mind stat high enough to get that much FP was just so I could try her out. She's a strong summon overall, but her strongest tool is definitely her fire projectile. It puts a short damage over time effect on the enemy, but it also gives them a debuff that just straight up deletes a chunk of their health bar. This can cause some hilarious situations though if she doesn't use her flame attack often enough, and the debuff wears off. As long as you have a big enough brain to pay her FP cost, I definitely recommend using her. Easy S tier. You've heard of Lhutel the Headless, now get ready for Latenna the Legless. Latenna has a pretty basic strategy. When you summon her, she's going to sit in that one spot and turn everything she sees into a pincushion. She actually puts out quite a bit of consistent damage, and she don't miss either. Okay, she occasionally misses, but even when she does, she's usually still distracting the enemy in the process. Also, if you have a boss in between you and her, you can kind of force it to ping-pong back and forth as it keeps changing aggro. If you weren't already convinced by her awesomeness, she can also just tame wild wolves and ride them like she's Snow White or something. I'll admit I'm a little biased, but I really can't think of any other spot for her but S tier. Alright, we're down to the last one, the Mimic tier. The Mimic tier is a reflection of ourself. Mirror showing us who we really are. Our strengths are its strengths. Our weaknesses, its weaknesses. Except, like, more exaggerated. So in order to rank the Mimic tier, we must first ask, what would I rank myself?